Hi, I'm Tubes Taylor. Before we get to this week's show, I've got a huge announcement. We've partnered up with one of the greatest companies in southern Tasmania, the Jackson Motor Company, on board for our major sponsor for 2018. Thanks very much to Troy Stewart and all the folks out there at Derwent Park and of course in Campbell Street in the city. Jackson Motor Company, the only place to get your vehicle in southern Tasmania. Now, on this week's map, the Lions roar over the Two Blues and stamp themselves as a genuine premiership contender. Captain of the Huonville Footy Club, Mickey Paul, will be here in the studio to run through the match. No old scholars this week, but Paddy Midson's here as well. He'll be running us through what's happening at the St Virgils Saints. Holy Trousers makes the cut 3 weeks in a row. We've got Furphy Play of the Day and Turbo Carter makes an appearance too. All that and more here on the map. Welcome to another episode, of course, joined on my left by our man Aaron Peachy Roberts. Welcome, Peach.
Great to be here again, Tubes, deep in the headquarters of Duff Studio.
Another big week of footy.
Well, apparently that's what you say every week, but that's part of your deal, isn't it?
Well, it is, and we're joined by the man from down in Huonville, the big full forward, the captain of the Huonville Lions, Mickey Paul. Welcome, Mickey.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, a big win for you boys over there at Lindisfarne this week.
Yeah, it was massive. It was huge for us. We didn't exactly back ourselves, but we knew we were a chance. We probably started a bit slow, but I'm probably lucky to be in it at half time and got the win in the end, so it was a good win.
Peachy, you were there. What do you think it was?
Oh, it was a really difficult. It was a blustery breeze, Mickey. I know you ran a long way to get a touch early. You were about 80, 90, 120 metres from goal. There was a turning point at one stage, and we'll see in the footage a little bit. There was a 100-metre penalty, which was the first score. I think Lindisfarne kicked the first 4 goals, and this was one of them here. Which was snap over back, but then you got a 100-metre penalty in a little bit, which really turned the game. But who was impressive for Huonville, for you? Particularly some of the guys off half-back like Ward Lovell were very good, but who do you think was a standout?
Matthew Schenk probably was one of the only 4-quarter players really, along with Lovell. They got a lot of footy, put a lot of pressure on, but probably lone soldiers a little bit as far as the pressure goes early. But it was basically our structures and the way we went about it that was what kept us in it.
Here's a goal there to Martin. I think he kicked a couple actually on the day and was a difficult hit. Martin and also Roberts were difficult. They were the small forwards. Did you match up well on them, do you think?
We didn't exactly put focus on any individuals. Really, they used the footy really well, both of those two, and cut us up. But it was more about the way we were setting up and what we weren't doing as a group that was costing us.
What was that? What weren't you doing?
I think we were probably getting sucked in a little bit to the contest, allowing them to, when the footy was on the outside, their spread was a lot better than ours, so they were able to get away from it and use their hands to.
Brody Dennehy, who just kicked that goal that we've just seen the vision of, tell us a bit about him.
Small fella from up north, so we recruited him this year. Quite luckily, he's working with a couple of our teammates, so we lucked out there basically. He has all the attributes to really tear it up actually. He's pretty impressive, so we're looking forward to seeing what he can do.
And Nick Doyle down there, how's he going? He's a very quiet man, but he was certainly a talented footballer back in the day. How's he going as a coach?
Brilliant, I think. I think I mentioned it the other week that he doesn't have to give a lot of instruction at the moment. I think he's got the group at a point where they know when we're going well or when we're going bad, and we're able to adjust during the game, basically from his instruction. So the group is really taking it on board a lot, but Doyle doesn't say anything unless it needs to be said. So when he speaks, he's listened to. Right on cue, there you are with a beautiful delivery to centre half forward there, mate.
Were you expecting to be second on ladder at this stage of the year?
No, not at all. Well, that's probably the difference at the moment. I don't think we're a much stronger team on paper than we were last year, if at all. We've had another year together, and Doyley's had another year into us. We're playing team footy, which sounds cliche, but it's genuine. We're all playing together. We're a tight-knit group. I think last year we were quite unlucky and probably underperformed a little bit. This year we're sort of starting to bear some fruit from our game plan that we're trying to work on. So
there's a lot of talk in the AFL about this word cohesion. Do you think that's what it is? Do you think that's been Nick Doyle talking to the boys and getting a game plan out there?
Massively. Yeah, I think it's talked about a lot, but I think it's still underrated, especially at our level. I mean, we're not at AFL level, so the differences in teams are probably quite dramatic with skill and star players, stuff like that. But I think the overriding factor is how you play as a unit, and we're doing it the way we want to at the moment. I'm not saying we're where we want to be, but as far as our cohesion, I think we're on top of it. So.
Now, it must be said that Lindisfarne were without a star player there, Peachy.
Well, they were. I kind of thought, though, the thing, I mean, I watched a fair bit of it, and the thing that resonated with me was the skill level of your back half. They were really skillful. I mean, I've seen quite a few games this year. There were some really neat users of the ball off half back. It reminded me of like the Hawthorn side, like they put all their best kickers and handballers in the back half. Is that the structure? That's sort of you get the ball off half back is the game plan?
I reckon Brad Curran would say yes, and it's his mastermind because they're his 6.
Yep.
But we've got a couple of backs out at the moment. We've probably had 10 go through there steadily. But yeah, they've been unreal this year. They're not scared to take the game on. They attack from half back, which is really, as we know, that's where it's set up from nowadays. So they set up really well, and they basically control the game. Especially the half-back line, they've been unreal. So
going back to Lindisfarne, though, they were without Michael Cassidy. Do you think that hurts their structure?
For sure. I mean, you take centre half forward out of any team, that's basically, as footy has changed, and it's probably not as important as it was. But if it's Michael Cassidy, it's quite important.
It certainly is. It certainly is. We've got some footage now of the 2008 Grand Final. Mickey Paul, you were running around in the Colts, but here is the current coach, Nick Doyle, who kicks an absolute beauty. This is the last time the Lions had their premiership, their taste of a premiership cup. What does it mean to the club to have vision like this?
I haven't actually seen that goal. I've heard a lot about it from Doyle, but we won the Colts that day as well, so that's basically our last taste of success club-wide. It's 10 years ago, so it's got a bit of...
That's just before, well, I should say the year after the TFL clubs left.
So New Norfolk came in the next year, I believe.
Yeah, so is it it's the change you've seen, particularly in Huonville? I mean, Huonville Channel, probably with the Northwest Coast, was the 2 strongest football communities for 30 years, producing footballers. No Commandy, no Channel. Huonville, Signet left. What's the feeling in the Valley at the moment with footy over the last 5 years?
The last 5 years I can comment on. Previous to that, probably a bit of a blur for me, being young. But the last 5 years, it's definitely a little bit of a hole in the community down at Commandy not having the footy club. Yeah. And there's a lot of... They were short-numbered and the committee wasn't there. But there still certainly seems to be a lot of people missing footy in that community.
Has there been any link back to Jeepston with the club at all? The supporters have come
so Signet play a couple of games a year down there, 1 or 2. We were playing a couple of games and alternating with Signet, but they've got a connection with the junior club at Commandy, so they've taken that on. And a lot of the players travel from there to Signet. We've sort of missed the boat a little bit in getting some of the Commandy guys. We've gained a couple of committee members, but probably not a lot of players, probably just 2 or 3 at the moment out of a possible 10 that are still down there, you know, feeding to Signet mainly.
Well, it's positive signs on the field for you guys as we take a quick look at the ladder here on the SFL ladder. We've got Lindisfarne and Huonville and Claremont at the top. As we can see there, Claremont are obviously the form side. How do you go up against a side like that, Mickey?
They've played one more game than I think us and maybe...
Yeah, they've played one more game than everyone and Sorrel, the only 2 teams that played 7, so...
We play them 3 weeks ago up there, and it was 11 points that they won by. They're impressive. They play that ground really well. I think that's a bit of a ace in their deck for them. They can really use that ground a lot better than we could anyway. We're probably more suited to a Lindisfarne type game, which is similar to our ground, you know.
When have you got Claremont down in Huonville?
Late in the year, I think.
So when the ground's a bit damp, maybe?
Yeah,
leave the grass a bit longer?
Turn off the heaters in their change rooms down there, Mickey.
Yeah, we always
maybe put a bit of ice or so on the saddle as they come over on the bus.
The SFL's pretty even though. Obviously Brighton are struggling off-field and with their numbers and stuff, but I still think they've even been competitive in patches, and it's a really positive sign for the comp to be so even. Have you found that as a player?
Yeah, well, from a playing perspective, that's all you can ask for is an even comp, and I think we've got that. I think there's probably 5 or 6 teams that could be in the top 6. The top 6 is the top 6 basically. Claremont's probably a leap ahead at the moment, but the other 5 are right up there. You know, it could be anyone. So it's exciting. It makes for a good year for everyone.
Mickey, thanks so much for making the trip over the saddle, mate. We do have some furphy for you. We've had a bit of rain down here in Hobart lately, so we're going to get you two 6-packs for coming over because you're nice and patient, and I know being a bigger man you'll make no short work of those. Coming up next here on the map, we've got our man from St Virgils out there, Pat Midson, the captain of the St Virgils Saints, who's coming in next. But first up, a quick look at an interview from Turbo Carter.
What's your views on what you think should be the structure of Tasmanian football going forward?
Well, mate, I remember back in 1974, it used to be Wednesday afternoon, who wants to go and play footy or netball from primary school? So you normally put your hand up and said, yeah, I'd love to, because you got out of schoolwork. I really believe that it's got to get back into the primary schools and the high schools, and then that will flow on to getting greater numbers playing, and I reckon that's the biggest problem. Obviously some money needs to be put into AFL Tasmania at the top level, but I think get it back into the schools on a regular basis.
So get the grassroots happening with the kids, get the youth. I think really, I know my son plays in the under-16s down at Sandy Bay. They've had to combine a 15s and a 16 side just to make one team. There's lies your problem, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Get it back into the schools. I mean, it doesn't have to be all grade 6s playing. It can be some grade 4s, grade 5s and grade 6s on a Wednesday afternoon, whatever the case is. High school footy used to be played at 9 and 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. You can still have your club footy and all that sort of stuff. Most of the kids are pretty fit enough and good enough to be playing twice a week if need be. So that's what I believe. Get it back into the schools, and in time that'll rectify it.
And what about with the state league? What's your opinion on that? Should it stay? Should it go? Should we get the Devils back?
Look, you talk to a lot of kids that are maybe playing state, that state league at the moment, and it's a big commitment for them to travel. 4 nights a week that they have to commit to. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of those kids are prepared to do that unless you've really got that opportunity that you might get drafted from the AFL, and that's where I think lies the problem. Maybe bring the Devils back, have that sort of elite where we can aspire to that sort of thing. But I'm not an expert, so we'll wait and see. Wait for the next story maybe on that one.
One thing you are, Turbo, is a great stalwart of your footy club here, mate, and hats off to you and all the other volunteers around here at the Ships, and best of luck for the rest of the year.
Thanks, Duff. Thank you. See ya.
Rightio, so there we go, Turbo Carter from the OHA Ships in the Old Scholars out there talking about school and footy, and we're joined now by St Virgils captain Pat Midson. Thanks for coming in, Patty.
Not a problem.
Now, you're a school teacher out there at Corpus Christi, mate. What are your thoughts on getting footy back into schools?
Yeah, it's good actually. We do school footy on a Friday, and it's really good to see the girls get involved as well. So Friday, I think term 3, it's the mixed, so the boys and girls. So that's awesome. Through the primary schools and then up through the high schools, I think it's really important. I think back when I was at high school, really enjoyed it through St Virgils and then through Guildford. It's probably some of the best footy times, I suppose.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really good.
I was just interested, how do you fit in the curriculum? Because that's the argument that the Education Department gives, no curriculum time.
Yep.
Catholic schools and independent schools don't have that problem.
Yeah, so ours is based on Friday afternoon, so there's the choice between netball.
Is that because you've had enough as a teacher by then? You can't be bothered anymore?
Yeah, pretty much.
But do you think it's a good way to get kids involved in it and progress their interest?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely been kids that haven't really been that sporty, I suppose, and then they get a taste of it, and then we hear that further on in high school they've taken up netball or taken up footy, and they're really enjoying it.
So do you think there's something the AFL Tas can do to encourage kids to and schools to get more involved in having footy at a school level?
Yeah, they probably could. They probably could in terms of maybe having some clinics and things like that. Yeah.
Right. Now, St Virgils, you guys
Yep.
were very, very close to going under last year. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so very, very lucky, I think, coming out of last year. So last year, basically, there was crisis meetings and numbers. We're trying to work numbers of who would play and whether we'd have 1 or 2 teams. And yeah, lucky enough, we had some support from the community and the numbers rocked up to training and we got through the year. So.
Yep, that's great.
Paddy, what's the main reason, mate? I mean, every club's unique, they've got their own nuances, but why did St Virgils struggle? Because you're a long, proud history.
Yeah, it's hard. Dunno,
You're on
it's
the
probably-
committee as well. You're kind of doing everything. I mean, is that part of the problem? Is not many people assisting, supporting the club?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of things. I think it's volunteers always hard to come by in footy clubs, but I think it's a mixture of like there's different. Well, there's the TSL, there's the SFL, there's the old scholars. So I think there's a mixture of leagues, and then there's always money in football too. So I think money plays a bit of a factor too. So.
I know that on field your results haven't been ideal, but I think you've been competitive. I think in patches you've had a few teams run over the top of you, but I think you've been more competitive than what most of the Football Society thought you were going to be. Do you think that's come down to a number of things, or what do you put it down to?
Yeah, I think this year we've been able to have a full pre-season with Matt. It's a lot of positive.
Tyrrell, the coach. Shout out to
Matt. Yeah. So he's got us headed in the right direction, I think, and then. Yeah, some good recruits as well. So, who
are those recruits? Name some names.
Yeah, so Ash Bennett, although he's fractured his finger, old Mooney. Yeah. They got Callan Sutcliffe, but again, he's injured his knee at the moment, which is unfortunate. And then Darren Hassett's been really good for us as well.
And I think that on field, even though you are struggling off field, I've spoken to a few guys around the St Virgils Footy Club, and they've talked about how even though you're struggling on field, off field, you're having a great time at the footy club, up at functions and events and stuff like that. How has that been driven by someone in particular out there at St Virgils?
Yeah, there's quality blokes out there at the footy club, so we do enjoy off the field functions and things like that. I think it's a combination of people. So Maxie Weston, he's always been a big part of social functions at our club, which is
Wallet Wizard. He looks like the wallet wizard for all those out there that are watching. Now, last time your club had success was 2013.
Yeah.
The grand final for the reserves. Were you involved?
I wasn't involved. I wasn't playing. I was up on the hill watching. But
So we've got some footage here from Duff TV back in the 2013 Old Scholars Grand Final against Richmond, a very favoured outfit, and it was a cutthroat game there, Peach.
Well, the reason why we've got this footage is because there's no Old Scholars games on the weekend, Paddy, were there? So we're reliving the last glory time for the St Virgils Football Club here. This is a nice goal coming up.
Darren Quinn on the left.
Oh.
It was a beauty, wasn't it?
Is he a left footer?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. So this is the last year that you guys had some success, and hopefully it's not too far around the corner for you. Obviously you are struggling off the field, but it doesn't take much, I don't think, for clubs to get it back, does it?
No, Old Scholars is pretty interesting competition, I think. So a lot of the time it's on the day, I suppose. But so I think it's just to keep building, and then
Now, Peachy, you just touched on this about the Old Scholars. They missed last week with the rain that we had here in Hobart.
Well, the grounds were actually pretty good most of the play. I know Martin Duffy did put some sneaky social media stuff up, but what did the boys do on the weekend? They had a week off, which some would enjoy, maybe the ones injured.
Yep.
What did the rest of the players do?
The lads went up to the sponsor pub up at the Marquis at Hastings there. So, I think they had a few furfies maybe up there.
That's right. Good stuff. There we go. Speaking of furfies, we do have a six-pack for you, mate. But because of the floods, unfortunately, the floods out there at Moona took most of the furfies down the river. So we've spoken to our man Brad Upton out there at Furphy, and he's going to get you, instead of just a six-pack, because you're being a very patient man, mate, he's going to give you a couple of six-packs for coming in. So, mate, thanks so much for coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, next up is Holy Trousers again. Aaron, I can't believe we're running with this again, but we're giving you another little soapbox there.
What can I say?
Well,
it's in my
here
contract.
we go. It is in your contract. Let's see how we go. Holy Trousers for another week.
Holy trousers, holes in your trousers.
Is school sport the answer? Physical activity levels are decreasing, with less than 20% of kids meeting minimum activity guidelines. Government school teachers have not been encouraged to support school sporting teams if run after school. How about we take a leap of faith and, with some help from research, bring school sports back into Tasmanian schools? Research by Dr. Dick Telford suggests academic outcomes improve with more physical activity. Why not find an extra 2 hours in the curriculum for school sports, supported by teachers and state sporting organisations? Even the head of sport in the country, Kate Palmer, CEO of the Australian Sports Commission, agrees and is working with governments to increase physical activity levels. Large cohorts of kids are not interested in clubs, nor can afford memberships and transport to training and games. If modified sporting competition is provided in schools, this would overcome many of these barriers. Just tucked behind the volleyballs in a school sports storeroom could be an old dusty bag with some ancient woolen footy jumpers. Give them a wash and let's get them out there to use. And that's Holy Trousers.
Well, folks, he's made 3 weeks and he's pretty happy with himself there, Peachy. Some interesting thoughts, Peach?
We wrote it and directed it. It's a work in progress.
Well done. All right, well, Holy Trousers, we're not sure whether it's going to be back next week, folks, but we're getting plenty of social media buzz for Holy Trousers, but we'll see how we go. Now, next week, there is no Old Scholars, so we won't be out filming, but we've decided to film 2 SFL games this week, Peach. Now, the first game we're going to cover is Dodgers Ferry versus Sorrel out there at Shark Park.
Looking forward to this game. I reckon it's going to be pretty close. Dodgers Ferry we saw last week. They were very impressive, like playing on the sandpit, as we're now calling it, and Sorrel improving.
Yeah, they certainly are, and we'll also be up at the night match out at Brighton. So Brighton versus New Norfolk out there at Huonville should be a good contest.
Well, Matty Smith's come from the Valley of Love. He's now the coach at Brighton. Maybe some comments in the crowd, but it'd be good to see 2 young, and there are 2 young sides too.
They very much are. All right, that does it for the map here this week. Thanks very much for tuning in. My name's Tubes Taylor. Until next week, take care. This week's Furphy Play of the Day, we caught some SFLW, which was terrific out there at Pembroke Park. Now, this is not what you normally think, Aaron. I've got you here because there's a great tackle.
Yeah, fantastic tackle, Lade. They're definitely holding the ball. Siren goes.
Yep, Sonia Marsh is the one taking the kick for the South East Suns, but I'm going in a different direction for this week's Furphy.
She got a glove on?
Yeah, she does. I'm going in a different direction this week for Furphy. I'm going to give it to the player on the mark. Hannah McMaster, look at it. Her team is getting absolutely flogged here at Pembroke Park, but she is happy. She's directing traffic. She's saying, get back on the line, we need to touch it. And it's that sort of enjoyment that we love at the footy here at the map. So, Hannah McMaster, the Furphy carton of beer is all yours. Come and get in touch with us here at Duff TV for your free carton of beer.